Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where a husband and wife team go over all the storytelling, world building, and characters of video games. Because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep. And this is episode 83.
Wow. It's been a lot.
I just realized next January we're going to have our 100th episode.
We have to
Around.
plan.
I don't know if it's exactly in January because
Maybe
we
it's
started in the second half of January. So
Yeah, it's probably before that, but we're going to have to plan.
maybe I should just do something really difficult for the 100th, like the lore of Kingdom Hearts or something.
And that's when I quit. But before I
Cram
do
all
that,
of Kingdom Hearts into one episode.
but before I do that, we should do this episode. We're not gonna
Okay.
We're not gonna quit anytime soon, at least.
Before we get into the episode, if you'd like to contact us, you can do that through many different ways. Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, and Reddit are all down in the description. And you can contact us through email at loretogether@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the podcast,
Please do.
you can do that in two different ways. First is to give us a review, a nice rating wherever you're listening. Thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever it is. The other way is through Patreon at patreon.com/loretogether, where you can pay a per episode pledge to get early access to episodes as well as access to our Let's Plays and audiobooks and all that stuff when I have time to actually edit them and upload them.
You're getting more time these days, so we've had this discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been as consistent as we wanted just because little buddy. But
Yes.
we're still working on that stuff. I'm still doing All Roads Lead to Dad. We're still doing Lork of Skyrim.
Yes.
We're doing all of that stuff. But today we're not talking about that. This is our mainstay episode. What are we doing today?
Okay, so I'm going to preface this.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to make you guess what we're doing,
All right.
but I'm feeling extremely annoyed at myself in retrospect for how I did episode 32.
What did we cover in episode 32?
We'll get to that.
Wait.
They know, you don't. So
Not fair.
and,
I wasn't told I need to do homework.
And yes, it has been that long since we touched upon this franchise for this very reason. In that episode, we simply glossed over so much of the world of the unified timeline of Zelda, also known as the earliest parts of the series timeline. And I have no intention of simply retreading what we covered
Yeah,
yet.
Honestly, we covered a lot in that episode. If we're going back to Zelda, that is a highly detailed series, and I do think it was a good overarching idea of what happened.
But it's kind of hard to go back and cover them now because we covered the main plot of each one as we went. But we didn't dive into it, and we'll get into a little bit more of that here.
Right. We did the main what the main timeline is of everything.
So I think the one game, one episode way might be the better way to look at this extremely important series, at least in my opinion. I think
agree.
many people's opinion.
I would agree that Zelda is a formative series for video games overall.
So we're going to start our journey on one of the timelines that spawned from the ending of Ocarina of Time, and therefore the ending of the unified timeline.
Okay.
So now, if you don't recall, I know it's been a while.
It has. It's been some time. Eons ago, we covered this, it feels like.
There are 3 endings to Ocarina of Time. The Fallen Hero timeline is a branch in which Gannon defeats the Hero of Time, also known as Link.
Right.
Then, the branch where Link defeats Ganon itself is split into 2. One where Zelda sends Link back in time to have an actual childhood, and the other one where Link is basically wiped from the timeline because he was sent back.
Okay.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially this is kind of going on the premise of time travel is actually deriving different universes, which I think makes the most sense, to be honest.
So there's the Fallen Hero timeline, the child timeline, and the adult timeline based on the status of Link. The adult timeline is the one where he vanishes.
Right.
So it's worth noting, that the current games of the franchise, Breath of the Wild and the soon-to-be-released Tears of the Kingdom, are so far in the future from these timelines that we're talking about that we can't even figure out which timeline they fit into, if any.
Right. And there's this idea that there's a lineage of Princess Zelda herself.
Zelda's a reincarnation of the goddess Hylia.
Exactly.
Link is basically a spirit that continually takes form, if I remember correctly.
Right.
As someone who does the research, I didn't actually go back and look at my old notes. Probably should have.
But I do remember that was a big premise of it,
Yes.
is that it's a cycle that this story...
A tale of swords and souls eternally retold. Oh, wait, no, that's Soul Calibur.
It's also this, though.
Yes.
It is also this. It's less gnarly in certain aspects, but it is definitely this. It's almost kind of like this world is forever going to be telling the same story over and over again. It's interesting, too, because there are writers who have theories that there's only anywhere from 3 to 10 main stories that everybody just keeps retelling over and over. And it feels like this universe is just a big premise of that, of souls saving the world.
Needless to say, we will be covering Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom at some point in the future of this podcast. I'd like to touch on Zelda games more frequently as well. Episode 32 was 2 years ago. It was March of 2020. 2020? No, March. It was episode 32, so it had to be 2021.
Oh, I forget. Yeah, we've been doing this that long. Oh, man.
So the game we're delving into today is Link to the Past.
Oh, okay, cool. We have that one.
Yes. It is part of the Fallen Hero timeline. So, again, to recap, Link dies in battle.
Yes.
Ganondorf takes Link's Triforce of Courage and Zelda's Triforce of Wisdom, thus getting the power of the complete Triforce and becoming Demon King Ganon.
Yikes, dude. So much yikes.
Then, in a very understandable act of desperation, the 7 sages seal Ganon within the Sacred Realm along with the Triforce.
Wow.
Side note, we didn't even discuss the sages when we last touched on this franchise, which is really sad considering how big of a role they play in Ocarina of Time.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious? I had no idea. I don't know about the 7 sages.
So, at times of peace, there are no sages.
Okay.
There are only those who could become sages if evil takes control of Hyrule, which is a weird barometer, but apparently that's how the universe works.
Okay.
If that happens, the Sacred Realm sends out a call to them, awakening the destined ones as sages.
Okay.
There's no hard and fast rule for who can be a sage, except one of the 7 is always a member of the royal family.
Right, so like the king or something like that.
Yeah. The original sages built the Temple of Time and forged the Master Sword.
Yep, makes sense.
Now, we don't know much about them because, save for one of them, we've never seen a single one in the franchise. That one we do meet, by the way, is Rauru, whom we see in Ocarina of Time in 2 different forms. One is his Hylian form, which is confined to the Sacred Realm, and another is Kippura Gaibora, a sage owl who guides Link on his adventures through Hyrule.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway.
There's a lot to keep up with here.
Yeah.
It's going to take me a lot to be... There's going to be so much serious thinking that you guys are not going to be able to...
Well, part of this is me also filling in gaps from the last episode.
Right. Okay. So what you're saying is listen to 32 first and then listen to this so you can know what we forgot to touch upon? Yeah. Okay.
As a result of Ganondorf's wish for the domination of the world, basically he completes the Triforce, he basically can wish for something. The Triforce itself caused the Sacred Realm to radically change. He's kind of stuck in the Sacred Realm and he wants to rule the world, so it's going to change for him. It begins to wither and die as if it was transformed into a twisted copy of Hyrule that represented what Hyrule would look like if Ganondorf ruled it. We kind of see this a little bit if you play Ocarina of Time. You jump to the future, Ganondorf has been in control.
Oh, okay.
So.
That's also interesting because it makes it sound like that the Sacred Realm is granting his wish, but his wish is so twisted.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. But he doesn't really rule the world, so he's only convincing himself. And really, when it comes to people who want power half the time, that's what it's all about.
Dark clouds permanently blanketed the skies. As a side effect of this transformation, the Triforce's magic was used to cast a curse over the entire realm, one that would cause any without protection from it to transform into a shape that would reflect what is in his or her heart. Basically, evil makes you twisted monster person. Yeah, that's how we get a lot of the monsters that we get, I believe.
They're the twisted wishes of the people who've entered the realm.
Diving into Zelda lore is like diving into an ocean. You can only see the little bits around you, and if you try to follow any one thread, you will get lost.
Okay.
So
good to know.
Because there's different interpretations all the time. Like the fact that so in Link to the Past, there's dwarven, I forget what they are, dwarven smiths or something. They're humans.
Right.
But their humans are so infrequently found in the Zelda series that they have like their own small and very short, comparatively, Wikipedia page. Not Wikipedia page, but like Zelda wiki page.
Huh.
Yeah, humans just aren't seen as often as Hylians, generally speaking.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Do
you want to follow that thread the whole way and then go dive into all those? So, yeah. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. We got a whole podcast we have to fill with episodes someday.
So, the Golden Land is now the Dark World.
Okay.
A place of darkness and evil. Think a bit like Golden City being ruined by the evil of man. Like the evil, you know?
Oh.
To draw a comparison to Dragon Age.
No. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. The Golden City. Yeah. With Dragon Age and specific. There's also a question, though, of if it was golden even when humans got there. So.
I'm giving Safi a look. I think we covered that in your last Dragon Age episode.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like I'm just saying that the theory of humanity actually corrupting it is not entirely sound.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Gannon is obviously not satisfied with just ruling over a newly transformed Dark World.
Yeah.
So
he'll never be satisfied.
He sought to return to Hyrule and conquer it as well. In time, evil power began to issue forth from the portal to the Golden Land, beckoning to men from the outside to seek the golden power and have their wishes become reality through its magic. As these greedy men enter the Dark World through these portals, hungry for power, each of them was transformed into a monster, reflecting the greed and evil within them. Kind of covered that already.
Yeah.
But as a result, Ganon's army of monsters keeps growing larger and larger as people keep coming in.
As more greedy people keep coming in.
To the point that he was now capable of launching an invasion against Hyrule.
That's interesting, too. So only the greedy people are coming in. So the people who would have had, like, earnest wishes of good aren't going in there, and therefore not countering all of these greedy monsters.
Yeah, a lot of this is coming from a intro of the game and the instruction manual.
Okay.
So, as well as one character exposing later. Exposing? Espousing? I don't know.
I think so. And of course, the way we say it could be different.
That's true.
Yeah.
Finally, his army now ready, Ganon launches the invasion against Hyrule, intending to fulfill his desires. His army swarms from the Dark World and floods Hyrule, causing mass chaos and attacking Hyrule Castle itself.
Oh, no.
Meanwhile, the Seven Sages searched for a courageous individual that could take up a weapon that had been crafted to combat magic as powerful as that of the Triforce, a sword that could banish evil itself, the Master Sword. However, no hero worthy of the blade could be found.
What?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The King of Hyrule eventually convened a council of the Seven Sages as well as the Knights of Hyrule, who served to protect the Hylian royalty and commanded them to seal the gateway to the Dark World in order to stem Ganon's invasion.
Right.
Both
try
groups,
to get less forces and also try to have less of them ooze out.
Both groups would play pivotal roles in the challenge, with the Seven Sages bearing the responsibility of creating the seal itself, while the Knights of Hyrule would protect them as they did their part doing their research and all that stuff.
It's an epic end of a campaign setting, that's for sure.
Right. It didn't end well. The Knights of Hyrule took the full brunt of the attack from Ganon's monsters, and while they fought courageously to the end, they were nearly wiped out entirely.
No!
Their lives were not lost in vain, however, as they fought long enough for the Seven Sages to create their seal, trapping Ganon in the Dark World and halting the invasion.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all pretext to the actual game.
This is a lot to have to know before the game starts.
This is also the era of games when you had instruction manuals with some lore and stuff in them.
Right. Yes, like Primal Rage, which
So we covered that one. I don't remember the episode number.
yeah.
With this, the war ended in a victory for the Light World, though it had come at very high cost. The people of Hyrule rejoiced nonetheless, and the restoration of order and peace to their kingdom, thanks to the efforts of the Seven Sages and the Knights of Hyrule. Ganon and his army were trapped in the Dark World. Due to the cost of resources and lives in the fight over the Sacred Realm, the Imprisoning War left Hyrule impoverished. That's kind of what they call it, the Imprisoning War.
Mm-hmm.
Once the conflicts against Ganon had ceased, Hyrule entered a time of peace which lasted for centuries.
Interesting.
Until
Uh-oh.
one day, unexplained catastrophes began to occur. Pestilence and drought ravaged the land. Thinking the recent disasters plaguing Hyrule were somehow linked to the Sage's seal, the king investigated it, but found it to be intact.
Huh.
Desperate for answers, he offered rewards for anyone who could find the source of Hyrule's troubles. In response, a stranger named Agahim, I think, I'm bad with names, and Zelda names are a little clunky to me at times.
Right.
Agahnim, it's that AHN that's throwing me. So,
Okay.
appeared as if from nowhere and solved all these problems with some powerful magic. As a reward, the king gave him a new position as chief advisor to the throne, and the common folk quickly proclaimed him a hero.
Yeah.
Once more, peace appeared to have returned to Hyrule.
For how long?
However, Agahnim began to govern Hyrule in place of the king and abuse his political power as he saw fit.
Yeah. That was easy ploy
Yeah.
of like, let me do the hard work, approve myself so I can get away with all this big political energy.
Yep. Rumors spread saying that Agahnim planned to kill the king and take the crown for himself, and that strange magical experiments were taking place in the castle tower at night.
No good whatsoever.
He cast spells on the soldiers and kidnapped young maidens from around Hyrule, all of whom were descended from the Seven Sages. He began to use their powers in an attempt to break the seal placed on the Sacred Realm. It's worth noting that Link to the Past came out before Ocarina of Time, despite taking place after it, because of course the timeline wasn't even a thing at this point.
Formed then, yeah.
But Ocarina of Time is when races like the Gerudo and the Zora and the Goron all started appearing in the canon.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are wondering, the Rito appeared in Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild. They're later editions. So the sages in Link to the Past are all Hylian, despite being descended from more diverse sages of the past. It's just kind of like a wibbly-wobbly thing because of the development.
Or there could have been an adoption thing going on. Who knows? I think that's fair.
The game starts with Link asleep, which is honestly pretty common in the series. He's
They
either asleep
love-
or unconscious at the start of many games.
They love their sleep and Link boys. That's how they like to do it.
It's a good way of thrusting the player into a unfamiliar world.
Yes.
So,
But still being very important.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's awakened in the middle of a stormy night by a telepathic plea from Princess Zelda, who tells him that she is being held prisoner in the dungeon of the castle and needs help.
So she's probably one of the victims of Agahnim.
Agahnim?
Agahnim.
I think it's Agahnim.
Agahnim. Excuse me for not knowing how to pronounce that
That's
whatsoever.
okay. I don't either. I'm just going with it.
All right. Forgive us.
Wide awake, Link finds his uncle with a sword and shield in hand. He tells Link not to leave the house, then sets off for the castle. Now, I did actually kind of sit there for about 5-10 minutes waiting to see if Link would go back to bed or something, but this is kind of before. Like, games did do that type of stuff at this point, but not mainstream
often,
ones.
yeah.
These days, you see it a little bit more frequently. Like,
Somebody's going to finally bother. Like, are you literally just going to sit there all day?
yeah.
And then they'll do the game over screen.
Or, in the case of something like Far Cry,
Yeah.
Far Cry 4, you just sit there and then you're done.
That's right. The game is over.
Yeah.
You figure it out.
So Link gets out of bed.
Okay.
Ignores the warning and follows him. Getting into the tunnels under the castle, Link finds his uncle mortally wounded.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, his uncle gave him the sword and shield.
No, his uncle left with a sword and shield and said, stay here.
Oh, and then you sit there and you wait, and then you decide.
Well, I sat there and waited. You can just get out of bed as soon as he leaves.
You're like, wait a second, this sounds bad.
So he's mortally wounded. He gives Link his sword and shield and entrusts him with the fate of Princess Zelda. Literally, his last line is, Zelda is your...
Blank, blank, blank.
Blank, blank, blank. Which has led some to theorize that Link and Zelda are siblings, kind of like Zelda is your sister. Or sibling or whatever. And
Luke, I am your father.
Yeah, playing off that. I think it's an misinterpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Other interpretations are more like Zelda is your only hope, which ties more into the Japanese line that reads, you are the princess's ...
Only hope, possibly. Yeah.
So where only hope and last hope and stuff might fit better, it's kind of weird considering neither is definitive.
Right.
And if you play the Game Boy Advance version, he says something totally different, but I'm thinking that might be a miscopy because a special Game Boy Advance version of a dungeon has a boss that looks like your uncle and says a line, and then this uncle says that line. It's just whatever.
Yeah, that I could see. Okay.
So anyway, Link proceeds to rescue Zelda.
That's it. So early on in the game, we rescue the princess.
Yes. Would you like to make any theories?
It's not really the princess?
Good theory, but no.
Okay.
The two escape the castle through its sewer system, perfect place for a princess, to the sanctuary just north of the castle where the old man simply named Loyal Sage resides.
And also, freedom's got to be really important if you're willing to walk through a bunch of poo. That's all I'm saying.
And rats.
And rats and other... Heck, I'm just thinking of Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. Also, if I remember correctly, it's also one of those dungeons where you have a lantern and it slowly dims and you have to keep relighting it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I could be misremembering, but...
Reminded me of some levels I just did in Kirby's Return to Dreamland.
Our loyal sage tells Link that the only weapon powerful enough to defeat Aghanim was the Sacred Master Sword. He then sends him to find the Elder, and here we go with the names again. Sahasrahla.
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 I think I'm just going to go with what you said.
Who is the elder of Kakariko Town.
Kakariko Town. Kakariko Town sounds like a place that you go on vacation. Yeah, we went to Kakariko. They have really good restaurants, a beachside resort, all inclusive.
Well, it doesn't have a beachside. We see Kakariko Village in Breath of the Wild. Of course, is it in the same place? Is it anywhere near the old one? Who knows?
Is that the actual beach town?
No, that's you're thinking of Laurel Island Village.
Okay.
But Kakariko is the one where you meet Impa in Breath of the Wild.
Impa?
Yeah. Old woman who tells Link to go.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, you're right. Okay, now I remember because that's the special race of people connected with the magic.
Not so much here. I mean, a little bit here, but not so much here. Upon arriving in Kakariko Town, Link discovers that he has been blamed for the abduction of Princess Zelda.
Whoa. And
that some villagers who believe him to be guilty will summon soldiers to arrest him. Fun times.
But she literally asked for you to save her? What happens? Does she go back home and they...
No.
She's still with you?
She is with the loyal sage staying at the sanctuary.
So she's not there to defend you.
Yeah.
The rumor has been spread around that it's this guy.
Yeah.
And the princess isn't there to correct him and say, you're full of it.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, Sahasrahla has been forced into hiding because of the growing threats of Aghanim, as Sahasrahla is also a descendant of the Seven Sages.
Yep, that makes sense then.
Luckily, his grandson knows where he's hiding and directs Link toward the Eastern Palace.
The Eastern Palace?
Yes.
So wait, what palace was our princess in?
Hyrule Castle.
But they have an Eastern... Is this like a vacation palace?
I think it's more like old ruins.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So.
An abandoned palace.
Yeah. When finally found, of course, whenever I say when finally or eventually, we are talking traipsing across the world, fighting,
Random
you know how it goes.
encounters and puzzles and other things. Yeah.
When finally found, Sarasrala explains that not just anyone could wield the legendary blade, that the hero must appear from the descendants of the Knights of Hyrule.
They had descendants. I thought they were all... Well, I guess they had kids that would have survived while they were fighting.
To prove himself worthy of wielding the Blade of Evil's Bane. I love how the Master Sword has like 5 names.
Blade of Evil's Bane. That's a good one.
Link would need to acquire the 3 pendants of virtue, starting with the pendant of courage. Now, I did find a little bit of contradiction here. On some of the wiki pages, it listed all 3 pendants of virtue as required. On some, it required just a pendant of courage, and then the other 2 came later.
Huh.
So I'm not sure which one it is because, full disclosure, I've never actually beaten Link to the Past.
Right.
I never had a Super Nintendo and haven't taken the time to play it since.
we got that when we first got our Switch, and by the time we first got our Switch, little buddy was around.
Yeah.
So, and to be honest, soon after we got the Switch, Mystic went out of his way to get Breath of the Wild, which is a lot more entertaining for little buddy to watch.
Yeah. And the one time I did play Link to the Past, I spent way too long just trying to get into the Chris Houlihan room. So, okay, so we don't know side note, we don't know who Chris Houlihan is, technically.
Yeah.
It's this room that you glitch into. It's basically a safety room where if you glitch the game to have the wrong Y coordinate, it dumps you into this room.
To reset?
As basically a safety, and then it'll spawn you back somewhere else. It's a place that just is there so that the game doesn't crash out.
Wow. And
inside the room is a bunch of rupees and a sign saying, "My name is Chris Houlihan. This is my secret room." You know? And the theory is that Chris Houlihan was somebody who won a Nintendo Power contest in, I think, 1990.
Oh.
And the contest was to have your name programmed into a future NES game. But, of course, the SNES came out.
Yes.
And the theory is that Chris Houlihan was the person who won the contest, but I don't think we have any proof one way or the other. So,
wow. I wonder who would still be working at Nintendo that would remember that.
It may be something known in NOA Treehouse, which is the translation team for Nintendo of America.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, that's
we're talking
so
about
long
something
ago now.
30 plus years ago.
Now I feel old. And
you know how I don't feel old, but I hope my brother does because that's how old he is.
So anyway, we need to get the pendant of courage. Whether it's all 3 of them or just the one, I'm not 100% sure. I do know where they all are. I don't know the order exactly because again, there was a contradiction in the wiki.
And you were just too focused on that Chris Houlihan room.
Well, I've only played Link to the Past for like 3 hours of my life.
Okay, I'm just saying, of all the priorities to have, I'm
which is annoying because I still
but
couldn't do a blind first hour of this because I've played it enough to not. Yeah. So anyway,
doing 3 hours worth of game is not worth a blind first hour. Continue on, sir.
The pendant of courage is in the Eastern Palace, so that's fortunate. It's right next door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's guarded by 6 Armos knights. Think big statues of knights. Link's sword takes... I'm going to go out of my way on this one here a little bit. Link's sword takes a lot of hits. I think it's like 6 hits per knight. However, the bow that he finds early in the dungeon makes the job much easier. I think it takes 3 or 4 per hit per knight. So, less work. This is, from what I've read, the first time that an item found in the dungeon is used to defeat that boss.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. Unlike later uses of that trope, this is not a wholly required use. Again, you can, if you don't have the bow or don't want to use the bow, you can do it. But it's kind of fun that, like,
you can find it and immediately use it to kick butt and take names.
Yeah. The other 2 pendants of power and wisdom are in the Desert Palace and the Tower of Hera, respectively.
Okay.
The Desert Palace is way to the southwest. Okay. And the Tower of Hera, in Link to the Past, it's called the Mountain Tower, but we're using the name from a later game.
Okay.
Is atop Death Mountain, way to the north.
So you have to decide which direction you want to go to first.
Yeah, needs to say Link has a lot of walking ahead of him.
Yeah. Make sure to have a playlist and pack some snacks.
Yeah. After successfully obtaining the pendants and withdrawing the magical sword from its pedestal in the Lost Woods, which...
That sounds pretty familiar to me.
Yeah. Zelda calls out to Link again, this time warning that soldiers have invaded the sanctuary.
Ooh, so where she's hiding now. Okay.
Link hurries off to the sanctuary, only to find that he was a moment too late.
No!
The loyal sage tells him that the soldiers have already taken Zelda off to Hyrule Castle. And loyal sage then dies.
So many older guys with mortal wounds talking to Link. He's going to need therapy for this.
A lot of people could benefit from therapy in most games.
Yeah, Link is one of them for sure.
At least all the ones we've covered so far, for the most part, seem to be very therapy required.
I don't know. Paper Mario. Yeah, no, there's still some therapy that would be required. Sorry.
What? I can't remember. Is that the one with the dead guy in it?
Paper Mario?
There's one of the Paper Marios that has a noose hanging.
No, that was not part of our game. I would have remembered that.
Okay.
I didn't realize there was a Paper Mario with a... Oh my gosh, this has got really dark, and we're not even about the game we're talking about. Jeez. Excuse this diversion.
Once again, Link hurries to Zelda's rescue and once again arrives too late.
No!
As Aghanim has already finished sending Princess Zelda to the Dark World.
So she's in there now.
Yes. Upon completing this ritual, the Sage's seal is completely broken.
No.
Link goes on to battle and defeat Aghanim. Though, of course, you know this isn't over yet. Aghanim sends Link to the Dark World in a last fit of, like, you shall not defeat me, blah, blah, blah.
Right. And is Aghanim... Wait a minute. Aghanim. How did you spell it again?
Agahnim.
Aghanim sounds very similar to Gannon. It's not his name switched up or anything.
No, that'd be funny.
But I find it interesting that there has to be some connection. Like, did Gannon find just one little crack and kind of influenced one little person?
So, in the Dark World, Link is contacted telepathically by Sarasrala, who tells him that the world he is standing in was once the Sacred Realm, but is transformed by Ganon's evil wish to blah, 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 basically filling in and Link all that stuff we talked about earlier.
Okay.
He then commissions Link with the task of rescuing the 7 imprisoned maidens from the dungeons scattered across the Dark World. So
all of the descendants of the sages are young women.
Yes. Well, not all, because Sarasrala is one as well.
Okay.
But, it's Legend of Zelda at this time. This is the 4th game, I think, in the franchise, because you have Legend of Zelda, Adventure of Link, and then I think Link's Awakening came out before this.
I'm not here to criticize the time it came out. I'm just trying to understand that it sounds like certain stars had to align so that most of them were young maidens. It sounds like that was part of the issue with why everything was able to stay sealed up for so long.
Should note that Link is only able to remain normal and not turn into a twisted creature in the Dark World due to an artifact he got from the Tower of Hera called the Moon Pearl. So
wait, but he's not greedy, I'm assuming, right?
No, but I think it still twists you no matter what you do.
Okay, so he would be rendered useless, not necessarily an evil monster, though.
Right. I think the maidens themselves are protected by the fact that they are
descendants of the sages. Okay.
They have plot armor.
They have apparently... I mean, this is a theme that comes up in fantasy, and we've talked about this before.
The virginal pure armor?
No, I was going to say blood lineage.
Oh, blood lineage. See, I was thinking that we were going to go towards... what's... Fina.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
From Skies of Arcadia.
Well, that's more of like a Western trope.
That's
true. And I think both fantasy in the East and the West does have the theme of lineage being very important.
That's true.
So I don't think
I mean, Link and Zelda, Zelda especially, is literally just...
It's a lineage plot in a lot of different ways. It's just a spiritual lineage plot in that one, and then this in particular seems to be more of a blood lineage, magic situation. I was not linking it to. I wouldn't link it to Christian purity. Plot
I don't either.
stuff.
It's just that's something that Maidens kind of conjures up when we're talking about like.
That's the Western idea of mother, maiden, crone.
Okay.
And that's a whole. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. That's a whole box of worms we're not going to open today.
So anyway, Link sets off to save the maidens. This quest to save the maidens does not mean Link is trapped in the Dark World. Technically, helping this old man through some caves earlier gains him some magic mirror, allowing him to come back to the light world with ease. And there are teleporters to the Dark World all over from people's previous travels to, like, all these people had to get there somehow. So,
I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I had to.
Yeah. So
you just brushed that off. Safi's just being silly again. I'm moving
back on the quest to save the maidens. There is a problem.
Of course there is.
Each one has been transformed into a crystal in the possession of a demonic monster within a dungeon. So this... Okay,
so that sounds like how they got twisted when they came through, is that they crystallized, and then they were like, monsters can take advantage of this. Look, it's now a pendant. Ha-ha.
Yeah, I just want to keep track of the amount of MacGuffins we have here is 10 different MacGuffins in this game. We have the 3 pendants of virtue, and then we have the 7 maidens.
What year did this come out again?
1991.
Okay. This is at the beginning of when we did a lot of that weird padding in video games, right? Like, it didn't peak until like 6 or 7 years after this, but I feel like in the 90s there was this idea of like, if we put more chasing of plot, people are going to enjoy the game because now it's 50, 60, 70, 80 hours of playing time.
I mean, I don't know if it peaked then. You have to remember Metroid Prime came out and it had the whole hunt for the Chozo relics, and then...
What year was that?
2002?
Yeah, it might have peaked later than the late 90s, but still not far off.
No.
This is I think the beginning of the era where, because you can put so much content in a game and somebody can play it because of how consoles worked, there was this need to try to make extend gameplay with so many different things, and one of them was chasing MacGuffins.
Fair. The main insider of the Palace of Darkness elaborates on all of this, explaining that Gannon needed the gate to become larger to be of use to him, and that he was still using the main's powers to kind of enlarge in this gate to let his army through and like kind of really make this all work.
Okay.
Upon freeing all of them, of course, that's a lot of fights and a lot of dungeons.
A lot of stuff going on there. Okay.
Link travels to Ganon's tower, where the 7 maidens use their combined power to dispel the barrier sealing off the entrance. Link proceeds to traverse the tower and defeat Aghanim a second time, this time for good.
So Aghanim is a servant of Ganon, I'm assuming.
Well, the Zelda games always have that tiered boss fight thing going on.
That's fair.
Upon his defeat, the spirit of Ganon himself rises from the body and turns into a bat and flies off to the Pyramid of Power.
Oh, so he was Ganon all of this time.
Surprise!
He literally was like, I found a crack into existence. Let me squeeze through and pretend I'm somebody else.
The Pyramid of Power, it's worth noting, is in the exact same place Hyrule Castle is in the Light World.
Well, that's where the power is centralized in the real... It makes sense because it's supposed to be a mimic of what he wants to take over.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could see that.
With the power of silver arrows, not required, by the way.
Just goes faster, I assume.
It goes faster. They're a hidden item given to Link by the Fat Fairy. Not joking about that.
The Fat Fairy?
Yeah.
Is it just like a little roly-poly with tiny little wings?
No, she is just like a fat fairy.
She's just a... She's just...
She's cursed, she says.
She's...
Go with it.
No, wait, I have so many questions right now.
Don't worry about it.
No, I have to now. After Breath of the Wild, where there's like tons of tiny fairies, and then suddenly you see that giantess that comes out of the pond. She's not fat. She's just literally giant.
Oh no, this one's fat.
This one is just fat.
Yeah.
Is it? But is it like Tinkerbell sized?
No.
Fat? It's just a fat woman?
It's like, so the fairies are a little different in this one. They're not giant like in Ocarina of Time and later games.
Yeah.
So it's much smaller. It's more human sized, and she's just fat. Yeah.
This is toxic, and I just want to say that out loud. She could just be not cursed and happen to be a curvaceous lady. That is all. Of course, that's not how it's written in the text, but I just want to say that this is toxic, and I'm not here for it. But we're going to move on.
So either way, with all of that, and with the silver arrows given to Link by the Fat Fairy and the Master Sword.
God, you said it again. It still hurts me.
Link finally vanquishes Ganon, recovers the Triforce, and by making a wish, reverts the effects of Ganon's evil reign over Hyrule and ultimately restores the land to its former glory.
Wait, I've just realized this is actually the plot from Dragon Ball. This is literally a Dragon Ball plot. I don't understand. Is everybody stealing from the same mythos over there for their fantasy stories? It feels very similar.
We do it.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just asking for clarification.
So after the ending, the maidens are seen finally restored to their normal Hylian forms, along with the revived King of Hyrule and soldiers free of brainwashing. Cirrus Rala returns to his home in Kakariko Village, and just to nail home that this has all been undone and it's a giant reset button, even the loyal sage is alive again.
Wait, what about Link's uncle?
Yes, he is. I believe we see
Oh!
him doing sword training with Link, if I remember correctly.
Because Link needs sword training
or
now?
was that in the comic? There was so one of the things that was kind of interesting about this was learning that there's non-canon Zelda games.
Oh.
Because they never released outside of Japan, because they were only on like satellite download services to the NES and the Super Nintendo. Weird
things that, America did not have any of that.
Yeah. So those are not considered canon because, they weren't massive. We're talking small modifications to a game or stuff like that. And
it's kind of like DLC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or mods.
Yeah.
So
updates.
Yeah.
A new ending because the writers messed it up.
Yeah.
Looking at you, BioWare.
If I remember correctly, they still kept doing this. I think Ocarina of Time had one too.
And that's on the N64?
Yeah, I think so. There's two different quests for Ocarina of Time, and it never made it to North America until the Wind Waker was coming out, and there was a GameCube disc that included both versions.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, one was Ocarina of Time like we had before, and the other one was like more difficult, rearranged stuff and everything.
Hard mode Ocarina
Pretty
of
much,
Time.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, that's Link to the Past in a much better nutshell than our previous Zelda game series.
It's easier
episode.
to crack nutshell.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I still don't think I've retained half of what you said, Mystic, and it's not because I wasn't listening enthusiastically. It's just there was a lot of nouns.
You just got cut up on Fat Fairy, I know.
That was the last 5 minutes. Oh, my gosh. Still toxic. Anyway, but I do appreciate how rich of a world they make.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. So.
Have you ever played Link to the Past?
No. To be honest, the first Zelda game I actually played was Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Because I didn't have. I'm sure I would have tried Twilight Princess and I might have been better. But I think I've said this before on this show. The Switch controller works for me in a way that no other previous controller for any system before has. The dual stick actually makes sense to my brain the way it's set up and everything. And the buttons, I have a decent reaction time compared to every other controller I've dealt with. So I wouldn't have been able to play this on anything else because everything else, it was like my hands were potatoes. I just wouldn't have been able to play as well as I should have.
Breath of the Wild is the first one I've actually gotten an appreciable amount into.
Yeah.
I never could get into... Well, I didn't have this one at all. Mm-hmm. When I got the 64, I never made it very far into Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. I loved them both, what I did play, but for some reason they never clicked with me like Breath of the Wild did.
Right.
So,
my brother really clicked with Majora's Mask.
We're gonna lose listeners over me saying that.
That you didn't like that? Look,
it's not that I didn't like it. I just wasn't good at it. Like, it didn't click with my brain the same way.
Oh no, we're not real gamers because we haven't mastered every single kind of game we ever could have wanted to play. This is not why we're here. We are here for the world building and the storytelling. I said it at the beginning of the show. Mystic is about to break his microphone. Apparently.
Sorry for that. Unfortunately, it was in the middle of you talking, so we can't cut it out.
No, it's fine. We'll leave it in. We're doing it live. And speaking of doing it
live, we have a guy editing. Thank you, by the way.
Speaking of doing it live, though, we do have a live stream of this coming out the Thursday after this airs to the public. So patrons get this on Thursday. Then on Saturday, it's open to the public. And the Thursday after that,
Safi gets to play it.
Safi will play the first. Are we doing the first hour of this?
Sure, have fun.
Oh, great! That's not a reassuring look there.
You'll be fine.
You say these things, but then I proceed to feel like my heart's going to jump out of my chest.
I'll even try to hook up an SNES controller for you to do it.
That's not going to make it easier for me.
Okay, I'll try to hook up a Switch controller to do it.
That might make it easier for me. Anyway, and for those Thursdays when we're not doing a live stream of the game we covered,
doing Skies of Arcadia.
We are slowly getting to the end of Skies of Arcadia. I think by May we'll be on to the next game.
Maybe by May.
By May?
By the end of May, I think we will be.
By June, okay.
And then we'll be on to Tacoma.
We'll do Tacoma.
And then once Tacoma's going to be easy. It's going to be a few episodes.
Yeah, it'll probably 6 to 8 episodes, I would assume.
Not even.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then after Tacoma, well, I don't know. You took a lot longer in Tacoma than I did.
But you're playing Tacoma this time around.
I'm playing Tacoma?
I thought that was the whole...
No, I've already beaten it.
Oh, I guess I'm playing Tacoma.
Yep. And then after Tacoma, I'm playing Mass Effect.
But those are the alternate Thursdays when we're not doing a first hour live stream. And again, as we said before, patrons are getting a lot of great extra bonus content, and we still plan to keep it going. So please support us if you can, even if you're only supporting us with a 5-star review. That helps immensely a lot in the crazy algorithms that we have to survive in. And I think that's it.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much for listening. Catch you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.